That is the purest idea of white supremacy. No, it's not.
You said it's not a racist.
Are you crying? Are you gonna cry?
I'm sorry. It's your event. Go ahead and speak.
That's right. That's right. You're talking over a black man. Come on.
If we were both owning houses in a similar neighborhood and I tried to sell my house and you tried to sell your house, my house would statistically be valued higher than yours.
That's a theory.
Because I have lighter skin than you.
What house do you live in?
Because I have lighter skin than you.
According to who?
I'm sorry?
According to who?
The skin color or?
If you were working at a bank and you were giving out loans, would you give out a loan to a white man and not a black man?
That's what redlining is, you donut.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we have Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum. I'm sure a lot of you follow him at a Turning Point USA event, absolutely cooking a they/them pronoun person. Let's get into it.
I used to not always be conservative, or at least know that I was. Larry Elder hurt my feelings. He started saying all that truth. I was feeling some type of way. Oh, no, he can't be right. Dudes on the police department hurt my feelings because I was all over Barack Obama. That was my dog. Smart. He was black, even though he ain't black.
How do you mean he's not black?
What part? Hold on.
No. How do you mean Barack Obama's not black?
How is he black? Give me an example.
His father's black.
So that makes him black?
Yeah.
What about his mama?
His mother's white.
So that makes him black? Sit down real quick. Let me school you real quick.
Okay, go ahead and school me.
Okay, is white supremacy, are you a white supremacist?
No.
Is white supremacy that says that a black man and a white woman together make a black kid? That is the purest idea of white supremacy. No, it's not.
You said it's not a racist.
Are you crying? Are you gonna cry? Please sit down.
We are not a racist country.
Please sit down.
The dominant social order says
because
white
supremacy says that. That's why you hold the truth to that.
That's the dominant social order
no,
of the country.
my son.
You said is not
listen,
racist.
Don't talk over me, please.
I'm sorry. It's your event. Go ahead and speak.
That's right. That's right. You're talking over a black man. Come on. With all due respect, okay? With all due respect, Barack Obama isn't black because he have a drop of black in him. My kids are not black. My wife is white. I'm black. They're biracial. They're not black. See, what happened in history is that if a black man or a white man or any other race had a drop of anything else, and it eliminated them from being pure white. It was called a one-drop rule. If a white person had a baby with a black person, they did not want the white race to not be pure, so you defaulted to the other race. Today, they practice the same thing. What makes my son black? He is 50-50. He's half white, half black. There's no way that you call him black unless you want the white race to be pure. And I think that's what that is. 50-50 genes. That boy is 50-50. He don't have to walk around and say black. He don't have to walk around and say white. He's biracial. And it bothers me when people still hold that racist ideology. If a white person have a baby with a Hispanic person, that person is Hispanic. Why is that? Because the white race needs to be pure. It cannot have any fault. It cannot have any mixing. They used to call it back in the day race mixing. That's why we have racism today in some capacities, is because of that very reason.
As we've seen countless times in these videos, when they don't get their way, they just yell and try to get louder and shout. The nerve of this person to try and tell Brandon Tatum what it means to be black. And it's interesting what he talks about here about the one drop rule. I just found out about this, I want to say about 2 years ago. I was reading up on it. And back when they still had slaves in America, a lot of the slavers or slave owners, whatever the proper word is, if they would have had a child with a black woman, because a lot of them did because they were working there, that child would be considered black and not white in order to keep the race pure. So you might be able to work in the house and not outdoor. You can serve stuff inside, but they would not treat you as an equal and they would not treat you as white. Again, like Brandon Tatum just said here, it was to keep the race pure. Let's get back to it.
What's your race?
I'm biracial. That's real funny. That's real funny.
What did that mean?
You just said that your son is biracial.
What's your mix?
I'm Hispanic.
And what?
And white.
Okay, so you go by white?
I go by mixed.
So why is Obama black then?
Well, I mean, I'm also Hispanic. I'm white and Hispanic. There's multitudes.
But you're mixed. You're not just Hispanic.
Let's get back to the
Would you
issue.
be the first Hispanic, whatever?
I mean,
If you want, if you feel like it.
whatsoever.
So, are you Hispanic?
Can we get back to the?
No. Will you qualify for minority benefits?
So you said that the United
Would you
States.
qualify for minority benefits?
So no, because I'm not. No.
Why not?
Okay, so
You're Hispanic.
So you said that the United States is not a racist country. However, the dominant social order imposes that white has to be pure, which you acknowledge comes from the United States. Which
You
is
are
not a racist
perpetuating
country.
that, not me.
Which is not but we're not a racist country, like you said.
Do you believe there's things in this country you can do that I can't do?
Yes.
Name it.
Statistically, if.
No. You can do that I can't do.
Oh, well, then nothing. However, we kind of are dealing with lots of numbers and people. If we were both owning houses in a similar neighborhood and I tried to sell my house and you tried to sell your house, my house would statistically be valued higher than yours.
That's a theory.
Because I have lighter skin than you.
What house do you live in?
Because I have lighter skin than you.
How big is your house?
I don't. I'm sorry?
How big is your house?
I have no comment on that. That's not important. That's a non sequitur.
It's not. Is your house bigger than mine?
If we had similar houses in a similar neighborhood and we both tried to sell our houses, statistically, my house would be valued higher than yours because you have darker skin than me.
According to who?
I'm sorry?
According to who?
The skin color or?
If you were working at a bank and you were giving out loans, would you give out a loan to a white man and not a black man?
That's what redlining is, you donuts.
All right, let me explain redlining. Let me explain redlining for you guys. I was trying to make a point there. It was kind of comical. However, this is a really good book for you to read as well. Thomas Sowell wrote a book called Discrimination and Disparities, right? Just because there's disparity don't necessarily mean that there's discrimination. I can go down the list. Do you think that school districts are discriminating against men? No, they're not. Women just decide to work in schools more so than men do. Do you think that the NFL is discriminating against white men? No, it isn't. Just so happened that black people athleticism plays a role in black people playing in sports in the NFL. That does not mean because there's a disparity that there's discrimination. Now, redlining. I did my research on redlining. There is no unequivocal proof that the reason why loans were given or not given is just because people were black. So in theory, this is pretty much what it's supposed to be, that certain areas in our country, banks would not allow or they would not give certain loans to certain areas, right? Because of multitude of reasons. Whether it's a dangerous area, they wouldn't give mortgages to dangerous areas that are run down, all of the above. And just so happened in some of these areas, they were minority areas. Now, people take that and say the banks were racist. But if you look at the institutions, the bank institutions, if they had higher qualifications or unrealistic qualifications for black people, unlike white people, then you would see that the rate of not being able to pay your loan, right? If the defaulting on your loan and different things like that, you would see it being higher amongst whites and not blacks if they had extra qualifications for blacks. And that's not what happened. Now, I don't know if it was racist or not. I don't believe that it was because I don't believe there's a correlation. Look at the black banks and look at the white banks. Black banks rejected black people at the same rate or higher than white banks did. Where's the correlation? Where's the outcry on that? And so moving forward, the idea from one side says that they only did this because they were black. On another side, they had ramifications for people not taking care of their communities, not having good credit and the like. So you have the two factions that have a difference of opinion. And you go to move forward and you say, how does redlining affect black people today? I grew up in a black neighborhood, and many people who talk about this subject have never lived in a black neighborhood. It's not about redlining that I saw or anything that had anything to do with the government, the reason why black communities were suffering so much. It was culture and personal responsibility. There's no law that makes you not graduate from high school. That's a personal decision. There's no government law that thrusts you into selling drugs in your community. That's a personal decision. Unfortunately, black people, in my opinion, in these inner cities have adopted this culture that's destructive. And this has really no relevance. Now, let me give you an example of how I think that the overcorrection of what they call redlining, and this is what they do every time, caused the crash of the market. Because in, protests to redlining, they now gave non-discriminate loans to people who did not qualify. And what happened? We had a whole crash of the system. Black people were not defaulting on their loans at a higher rate than we've ever seen in history. And that's because they focus on race, and we should be focusing on results. If you don't have a high credit score, you should not be able to get a particular loan. There's a lot of other things that are factored into this. Larry Elder wrote a really good piece. Tommy Sowell obviously wrote a really good piece. They both are very similar in their thought process here. They don't answer a lot of questions that go along with the behaviors of different people, right? They go, well, they give loans to white people at a better interest rate than they give to black people. What they don't ask the question of is that, are they equal in their financial situation? If you look at statistical data, white people have 30% more savings than black people do. When you go to get a loan, if you know anything about loans, they look at how much liquid funds you have. They look at what you have in your savings. They look at how much money you make. And then you have to negotiate. Are black people negotiating to get a better interest rate? Or are they just taking the first thing that they get? All of these things are questions that need to be answered before you articulate that redlining is the problem.
Just because there's disparities doesn't mean there's inequality. Just look at the STEM fields, right? It's overly representative with Asians. Are we just going to have quotas on Asians now? I mean, we've talked about the equality of outcome thing enough on this channel. That's why it doesn't work. People choose different things. And in that book, Discrimination and Disparities, which I recommend, I also recommend Black Rednecks and White Liberals. He's got a ton of good ones. All this stuff is good. But he talks about discrimination and says that, yeah, sometimes there is discrimination, as if you're a big law firm, you might discriminate on where your students will come from, but not necessarily on their race. Sometimes you're discriminated on social economic class because maybe you didn't have access to certain things, but that could be white people too. That could be anybody. And sometimes it's just the nature of things, right? In that book, he also talks about tornadoes. 90%, like the world's a big freaking place, right? And 90% of the tornadoes all happen in the US. That's just the way it is. The same way, it's just the way it is that men and women choose different career paths. If you leave them to their own desires, they will not choose the same thing. That's why men get paid more. It's not discriminatory. They just choose jobs that pay more. They'll generally choose jobs that are more scalable. They choose careers that are in the STEMs, science, technologies, engineering, mathematics. Yeah, great stuff. I suggest, if you've not read these books by Thomas Sowell, maybe you're not into reading. If you're somebody who works out at all, this is when I do a lot of my book listening. I listen to Audible all the time. I go on the treadmill. I'll do an incline walk for about 45 minutes, or I get on the bike or the elliptical and I just listen to a book. And if you're into this type of content, these are books that you should just read, because Thomas Sowell is somebody who bases his books in facts, not feelings, like these white liberals. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button, consider subscribing to the channel, help it grow, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.